Hello and welcome to Jedediah's Corner. My name is Jedediah and today is March 11th. It's been about 5 months since October 8th when Israel began bombing the Gaza Strip. Now 5 months later, definitionally, we can all call this a genocide. We can all call this a Holocaust without fearing that somehow our description of what is happening is incorrect. We can also call this ethnic cleansing, and we can also call this collective punishment. All four of those things are war crimes condemned by the international community. We are 5 months into the continuation of the desensitization and the traumatization of the world population. In fact, we are decades into that project, but in the last 3-4 years, all of us have been hit with a successive number of traumas, a successive number of tragedies, all pushed by our governments, whether intentionally started or accidentally started. Every tragic event has been used to push forward an imperialist and an oligarchical agenda. The world hegemony that the United States has so long enjoyed after World War II is crumbling and falling to pieces. It is a multipolar world where the oligarchies of great empires are fighting for supremacy. If we look at this situation in Gaza and we zoom out and we start to examine the tangled web of connections that this Nazi-like regime, this rogue state, has with all of the Western governments, intelligence services, and their most sensitive data, we can only end up at one place. The company Oracle, started by a billionaire, Larry Ellison, is and has always been an arm of Mossad, an arm of the Israeli intelligence services, embedding itself into Western intelligence agencies by winning contracts with the CIA, the NHS in England, and other sensitive parts of governmental bodies outside of the state of Israel, exposing their most sensitive information to a regime that is currently showing these Western allies how effective they can be at wiping out urban populations. They're talking about bringing robot dogs, armed robot dogs. Remember a few years ago, everyone was terrified when they put a gun on a robot dog, and everyone that saw that said, this is horrible, this is dystopian, this is frightening. The dehumanization of the Palestinian people is a massive project supported with billions and billions of dollars that could go to the feeding, clothing, and housing of the poor in rich Western countries. Instead, billions of dollars is given to a rogue state, a state that stole a nuclear weapon, a state that has been committing terrible atrocities on their neighbors for at least 75 years, an occupation, the longest running occupation in modern history. So many atrocities have been committed on the Palestinian people that there is no way that we can look at this other than looking back at what Nazi Germany did to Jewish people during the Holocaust and saying it is not exactly the same, but in some ways it is much worse. Some ways it is much worse what is being done to the Palestinian people, because the Nazis did not have this technological power The Nazis didn't have a cloud-based system called Oracle, started by a billionaire who supported the Nazi state, so that the Allied forces found themselves unable to stop the Holocaust of the Jews because they had tied their most sensitive information from their security, their spy services, to the state of Israel. This technology is also used in places like New York City to harass poor, marginalized black and brown communities, to keep the police in their neighborhoods, to perpetuate the ghettoization of the poor of the world. This is not just about killing Palestinian people. This is not just about dehumanizing Palestinian people. This is about the strengthening of the playbook of the modern imperialist, the modern colonialist, the modern settler, the modern nationalist state that seeks to expand its borders in the most insidious way. Israel just started bombing Lebanon, a country they have invaded in the past, a country that is currently fighting against their Holocaust of the Palestinian people. They have already bombed, and the United States has already bombed Yemen, a country that experienced their own genocide, which Western countries rightly called a genocide, whose pictures appear very eerily similar to the pictures in Palestine, in the ghettos in Palestine. They destroyed the ghettos in Yemen as well. Why would anyone think that the Yemenis would not fight against this and support the poor, support David in this situation? If you want to take that mythical story and apply it to anyone, the people who are David in this situation are the Palestinians. And Goliath, the towering monster of the opposing army, is Israel. Israel is Goliath. Israel is the oppressor. I'm going to dig into Oracle systems a little bit more, and I'll bring you everything I know. The successful protest did go through yesterday in Teaneck, New Jersey, and I applaud everyone who was able to go. Unfortunately, I got a call from the Teaneck Police Department telling me that if I showed up there, they would arrest me. And since I'm publicly posting all these videos, and since the commenter threatened to call, said they called both the Teaneck Police Department and the FBI, I have no idea if the FBI is watching me. But you know who's watching them? Oracle. You know who's watching the FBI? Israel's security forces. You know who has access to their most sensitive information? Israel's security forces. This is the axis of evil. And unfortunately, I live in one of the countries that is participating and perpetuating a genocide, is perpetuating a modern-day Holocaust. And they're not doing it in secret. They are doing it out in the open, and they don't intend to stop at Palestine. They don't intend to stop in the West Bank, where yesterday we saw horrible examples of IDF forces tying civilians together and literally dragging them by a rope. If you guys want to go back to the kind of horror that we committed during slavery, that we committed during apartheid in South Africa, that we committed on so many poor peoples, there are other genocides currently happening in this world which Western countries do nothing about because they only seek to prop themselves up and steal the resources of the world. We live in an evil empire, and it is an evil empire that has been operating for decades. All of us need to urge our government to divest from Oracle systems, divest from these Israeli-backed companies that are essentially the modern-day Nazi party, and they are committing a Holocaust right now.